Hey Cal fans, welcome back to the football film study here on Right for California. I know that for a lot of us, myself included, Saturday's win over Oregon felt a little bit lucky, and there were definitely a lot of things that had to go right for the Bears to get the win. One thing that we can't lose sight of, though, is the fact that Cal's defense held the Ducks, who have a top 25 offense this year, to just 17 points, their lowest yardage total of the season, and their lowest yards per play of the season. That doesn't happen by accident, and so in this video, I'm going to highlight one of the schematic battles that happened in this game by looking at Oregon's final drive. On this drive, the Ducks were marching down the field apparently at will before Cal linebacker Koin Deng forced a fumble, and in this video we're going to see what the Ducks were doing to be so successful early in the drive, and we're going to see how the Bears adjusted within the drive to try and limit those plays, giving themselves the opportunity to force a fumble in the first place. This video will look at the defense, but you'll soon be able to find a full breakdown of the offense at patreon.com/Burke18, where I also have a Scheme 101 video course that teaches all about the X's and O's of coverage in the passing game. But for now, let's get into that final drive. Here's the first play and our first look at what Oregon was trying to do. We're going to see a shallow cross get caught by the middle receiver in the trips here at the bottom of the screen. That obviously should have been stopped after 5 yards. There was a missed tackle there at the end, but the question is, why was it open in the first place? Now, I wish that I could see about 5 more yards off the screen here to see exactly what Cal's safeties are doing, but one thing that we know for sure is that this is a zone coverage, so on this play, when this receiver runs a shallow cross, the guy lined up over him is not going to chase him in man. He's going to zone off, as we can see right here. Okay, so there's that guy playing zone. And the other thing that we know for sure is that in this zone coverage, this cornerback is a deep sideline defender, so he's not going to be in position to get involved against a shallow cross by this guy right here. So we can watch this cornerback bail out to defend the deep sidelines. Right, so there he goes. He's not going to be in position to defend this route. Whatever the exact coverage is, with this cornerback gone as a deep sideline defender, the defense is going to need somebody to defend routes that break into the short outside zone here in the flat. And on this play, they're going to get it from this linebacker playing something that's called a curl flat technique. So the first thing that's going to happen at the snap is that this guy is going to zone off and drop to the curl zone. He's doing this in case this receiver runs something like a curl that breaks back inside. His job is to get underneath it so that this cornerback can play over the top. And so at the snap, we're going to see Deng here. He's dropping to the curl zone. His second job is to make sure that he does not get outflanked by any other route that attacks this short outside area. So when this running back releases out to the flat, it's going to be Deng's responsibility to widen with that, and we can see that as the down progresses. So there he goes. He drops to the curl. He sees that he's getting threatened in the flat by this running back, and so he widens out to that route. And the reason that he's doing this, remember, this cornerback is a deep sideline defender, and so it's theoretically possible for him to get run off or taken away by some deep route. And so the reason that this guy has to widen with this running back to the flat is because he doesn't know for sure that he's going to have that cornerback there. If he lets this running back outflank him, and if the cornerback's gone because he's gotten run off, then that running back will be able to get down the sidelines with no defender over the top. So that's why it's incredibly important. This guy, he's going to start off dropping to the curl, as we see right here, and then making sure he doesn't get outflanked by that running back, which is going to take him out all the way to the sidelines, as we see right here. On this play, Oregon's attacking this curl flat technique of this linebacker by both bringing this running back out of the backfield into the flat and forcing this guy to widen, and then taking this middle receiver in the trips and bringing him on a shallow cross right into the open space that he's vacating. So here we can see how those two routes work together. The ball gets snapped. The linebacker up here starts to widen. Here we see that shallow cross coming. The running back comes out of the backfield. The linebacker widens. He widens off of this hash, and that's exactly where this shallow cross is going to be completed. We can also describe this basic problem from a numbers standpoint, which will be useful for understanding later plays. So on this play, we can see that the Ducks have 3 wide receivers to the bottom of the screen, but only 1 up here at the top. If we look in between Cal's cornerbacks here, who are both deep sideline defenders, we see that Cal has 3 underneath defenders. And so the basic issue here is that the Ducks have 3 receivers down here at the bottom of the screen, and so Cal has taken 2 of those underneath defenders and put them to the side of the 3 receivers, and that just leaves them with 1 defender here to the weak side of this formation. And so we can say that what the Ducks are doing is they're attacking that single weak side defender with 2 routes, one by the running back coming out of the backfield and another with this middle receiver coming on a shallow cross. We want to keep this 2-on-1 stretch in mind for later plays. When we look at this next play, we're going to see Oregon complete another shallow cross, but the reason behind it is completely different. So first, let's take a look at the play. Remember that on the last play, Cal got beat when this linebacker got outnumbered 2-on-1 in zone coverage here to the short side of the field. And so on this play, they're going to take that off the table by switching to man. If we remember from the play that we just watched, this slot receiver is going to end up catching a shallow cross, breaking across the field in this direction. And so in order to make sure that this linebacker doesn't get outnumbered, Cal's just putting a man defensive back over that slot receiver, and he's going to run with him. Now, I should say here that defending a shallow cross as a man defender like this is a tough thing to do, and we can see this if we look just a little bit post-snap. So if we go right here, we see this guy's in man coverage. He's got to be ready to defend this guy wherever he goes. So when that guy breaks immediately inside and away from this defender, that's going to be a hard route to cover. And because of this, Cal's going to want to give this defender some help as this receiver works across the field. On this play, Cal's just bringing these 4 guys on the pass rush, and normally the way that a man coverage will work with a 4-man rush like this is that the defense is going to put a defensive back over each of the receivers, as we see right here, and then the linebackers are going to divide up responsibility for this running back if he comes out of the backfield. So the way that that works is if this running back were to release out here to the offense's right, then that would make Josefa responsible for covering in man-to-man, and then Deng would not have a man coverage assignment because that running back would be gone, and so he would drop to the middle of the hole as a help player, and that would put him in position on something like a shallow cross to offer inside help to the man defensive backs, because we know that this route's going to be hard for them to defend. On this play, we're going to see the opposite scenario. So here the running back is ultimately going to release out into the flat to this side of the formation, and that's going to make Deng responsible for him. So we can keep an eye on that right here. So the running back releases out on his check down. Deng's responsible for that. And when the running back does not release to this side of the formation and doesn't attack Josefa, he's going to become the help player in the middle of the field. So now we can watch Josefa. The ball snapped. Notice he does not have to worry about the running back because the running back's over here releasing to Deng's side. That puts him in position to be a help player in the middle of the field. And so he would potentially be able to cut this crossing route coming from the slot receiver. Here, he's going to get outflanked a little bit, and that's going to let the wide receiver get the edge and get the first down. But we can see how the system's supposed to work. And if you're wondering, why wasn't he able to just jump this immediately? He is the only help player in the middle of the field. Remember, all of these other guys are going to be in man coverage on their receiver. And so he's potentially a help player, not just against a shallow cross, but against, a dig or something like that working deeper behind him. And so he can't just jump the shallow cross, which might lead to a little bit of hesitation. He reacts pretty quickly here. He just gets outflanked a little bit. So we see this is another shallow cross, but it's completed for very different reasons from what we saw in that zone coverage on the first play. On this play, Oregon's not actually going to throw a shallow cross. They're going to throw a pass to this running back coming out of the backfield. But as we're going to see, this route gets opened up by the threat of a shallow cross. So it's the same kind of thing that we saw in the first play where this linebacker is being attacked 2-on-1. So let's check out the play itself. On this play, Cal's back in zone, but this time they are switching things up a little bit. So remember that on the first play, the Ducks got their completion by outnumbering this linebacker into the short side of the field 2-on-1. So they attacked him with a running back, which forced him to widen as a curl flat defender, and then they attacked the space that he vacated with a shallow cross working from the opposite side of the field. And so on this play, Cal's going to try to fix that situation by getting 2 defenders down here to the short side of the field. But they still want to maintain a 4-man pass rush, so basically what they're going to do is they're going to use a blitz to kind of shuffle around where their pass rush is coming from. So here we're going to get a blitz from Josefa up here to the wide side of the field. In combination with these 3 guys, that's going to give the Bears their 4-man pass rush. So we can see that right here. Josefa blitzes, that gives Cal a 4-man pass rush. And what that does is that's going to allow Croteau, who's this outside linebacker down here at the bottom of the screen, to drop to this side of the field where he can become a second zone defender into the short side of the field. So now theoretically, Croteau could take the running back out of the backfield, and then Deng would be able to sit here on the hash for the shallow cross that's coming at him. So why did this pass get completed if the Bears have enough guys down here to the short side of the field to take away both options? Well, remember, it's going to be all about the curl flat technique that we discussed in the first play. So remember that whoever is responsible for this short outside zone, the first thing that he has to do is drop to make sure that this outside receiver doesn't run anything breaking back inside like a curl route. That's the first part of his curl flat technique. So here we're going to see Croteau, who's the short outside defender down here, doing exactly that. The ball gets snapped. Notice that he's dropping inside of this outside receiver. So if this guy were to run a slant or a square in or go a little bit deeper and run a curl, then he would be in position to cut off that route because the cornerback's not going to be able to do it from his alignment as a deep sideline defender. So the problem with this is that when he drops with this outside receiver to fulfill that responsibility, he's going to open up some space underneath for the quarterback to hit this running back and let him pick up a 5-yard gain. So if Krota's got to drop with this outside receiver, who could pick up that running back? Well, it would have to be Deng, but if Deng does widen here, if Deng's busting it out to the sidelines here, then the shallow cross is going to come open right on the hash. So Cal's kind of back stuck in this problem because of the way that they're asking this outside linebacker to play. They're back in that situation where they've got Deng outnumbered by 2 receivers, and so they're going to pick up the completion, this time throwing to the running back instead of the shallow cross, but the basic schematic problem is the same thing that we saw in the first play where they completed the shallow cross to Deng's side of the field. This brings us to Oregon's last play on offense, which is the moment that you've been waiting for if you're a Cal fan. So here we'll watch it one more time before getting into the analysis. The key detail here is that this is the first time that Cal's played a zone coverage that does not make this cornerback a deep sideline defender. Cal had been making that guy responsible for anything vertical and outside, and then they'd been spinning safeties away from him so that they could get extra numbers over the trips receivers. But on this play, they're just going to take that cornerback, put him in the flat, they're going to play with a safety over the top to take anything vertical, and then they'll have their second safety playing over the top of the trips receivers, which is a different kind of coverage shell from what we've seen in the other plays that we've looked at so far. And the upshot of this is that if Oregon runs this kind of 2-on-1 stretch on Deng, Cal's going to be in a good position to pick it up, because now if this receiver goes vertical, then the safety's just going to pick him up, so neither of these guys has to worry about that vertical route. If the running back comes out of the backfield into the flat, the cornerback's going to be sitting there to pick him up, and then Deng will be in position to defend the shallow cross working over. And so this is going to solve the numbers problem that Cal's been running into on all the plays leading up to this one. Perhaps anticipating this, Oregon is switching things up on their own, and they're doing something a little bit different as well. So previously they had been taking a receiver from the strong side of the formation and bringing him on a shallow cross working to the weak side to outnumber Deng. Here the shallow cross is going to come from this weak side receiver working across the formation to the strong side. Now remember that when Cal brings this cornerback down into underneath coverage, they have to put a safety over the top in order to pick up anything vertical by this receiver. And because of this, Cal is not spinning their safeties down to the trip side as they had been doing on previous plays. That means that they're going to play with one safety over the top to the weak side and one safety over the top to the strong side. And the reason that this matters is because on this play, when this receiver goes vertical, this linebacker is not going to have to carry him because he's got a safety over the top. So if we watch the snap, watching these receivers who are not going to get the ball, they both push vertical. This linebacker does not have to carry this guy vertical because there's a safety over the top to this side of the field. So he's able to float here. The quarterback is going to throw the ball to this shallow crosser. That linebacker is able to break up on it and get first contact, while Deng comes in to clean up and force the fumble. The other point that I would make here is that on this play, because there's a cornerback to the weak side of the formation, Deng does not have to be responsible for this running back if he comes out of the backfield. And so what that's going to do is when this receiver runs a shallow cross and the running back is the only possible threat to this side of the field, Deng's going to be free to kind of drift with this shallow cross a little bit and to read the quarterback's eyes and move with it. So here Deng's actually running toward the strong side, which is something that wouldn't have been possible in the other coverages that Cal's been running. But here, because of the coverage structure, he's able to chase this guy across the field. And so that way, when Josefa makes the first hit, Deng is right there in order to force the fumble. So this is ultimately the product of scheme, although obviously scheme doesn't cause fumbles. There had to be a little bit more to the play than that, but scheme is what puts Deng in position to be able to make that hit in the first place. All right, that's it for this video. For more on the offense and their performance against Oregon, check out patreon.com/Burke18, where I've also got a video course that teaches you how to break down plays in the way that you've seen in this video. Otherwise, I'll see you here next week to break down the Washington State game, and until then, go Bears!